So once you have that mask drawn, you have those three words on the left, and the three words on the front of the mask are things that you gladly let people see.
My second word is humorous. And I guess the reason I brought up that little story there is because through self-deprecation, right? Fat talk, that came out of just the concept of me and my fat friends talking about fat stuff, food and girls and whatever, right?
The back, those are three things that you normally don't talk about.
The first one on the back for me is pain. And that pain is the whatever emotional burden, whatever emotional trauma, whatever depression, whatever things that I happen to carry that anyone is going to have, right? I mean, everybody carries something. Whatever that happens to be for me, that's what it is, that pain.
Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti and I'm really glad you joined us. Today's guest is Chuck. Chuck and I met at a conference I was speaking at a year ago, about a year and a couple of months ago. And that conversation led to a really meaningful friendship and a connection. He's going to tell you all about himself. You're going to hear in this podcast us talk about our journeys. Our journeys around food. I mean, I love to eat, right? And I think I used to use food as a very much a social experience. But to be able to talk to somebody who's had issues with food like myself and who gets it, who gets the draw from things that are maybe not good for me health-wise, but that feel so good to me emotional-wise, it means a lot. You know, if you really knew me, you would know that my weight has kind of gone up and down my whole life, and a lot of the weight came on after some childhood traumas when I really started to put on a lot of weight, going to food for comfort, tapping into eating just for the sake of feeling good about it, not for fuel, not for just life, just for to feel good. And so this is going to be a really powerful conversation. We get into some deep topics around that, and just another man who gets to come together and take off the mask. Maybe you have been wondering, can you do that as well? And we invite you to. You can go to our website, www.100kmasks.com, and make a mask and be a part of this movement. Share it with somebody you know. Find a friend and talk about it with them. Ask them if they're willing to talk about their mask with you. We have found that when young people, not only just young people, but older people, all people come together, transformation can happen. Deep connection can happen. And really meaningful reflection can happen. So thank you for being a part of this movement. Just by listening, you help us get the word out. By just telling somebody about this podcast, you help us get the word out, and we hope that you will at some point be a part of it with us. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's show. Time is flying, right?
It is flying, and so I agree, but it's only but you said 2018. I thought, man, hang on a second here. You're right.
December 2019.
2019. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
December 2019. That was
okay. Got it. 2019. Okay.
Gifted Ed conference.
Yeah. It was the Texas Association of Gifted and Talented.
Yeah.
That's right. TAGT. Yep.
Right.
And so so I made my mask there, and then I took a group of students out to on a hike. 2 groups of students on a hike.
Yeah.
Based off of your taking off the mask activity.
Okay.
We did it out there, and it was one of those things where we man, you wish you had more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you do all this work to get out there, and then you want, it's like if you ever been on a family vacation and you want everything to just be right, you want everybody to have their moment and experience. And it was good. And I think some of the kids got that experience, but it was just it was the beginning.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. And so, it's kind of disrupted things. So that was the last. So it's been it's been a year. So.
Well, we get to rock it today. And today, the Taking Off the Mask podcast is really about giving men a space to come together and recognize that there's so much more going on with each of us than anybody could ever know just by looking at us. Like sometimes when people judge us or look at us, they make a story in their own minds about what they think, who we are, what we're about, what we're like, what our values are. Most times people have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. And so today we get a chance to do that. And the reason the episodes kind of go quick is because it's not an interview. It's not you may ask me a question, I may ask you a question, but really this experience comes out of us making a mask together, doing this experience, and then seeing what comes up. And whatever's supposed to come up is going to come up, and we'll just do our best. So I would like to first ask you to introduce yourself so people know who you are. We've kind of already jumped into like where we met, and that was really beautiful, right? And that story may even come up again. I'm sure there's lots of stories. I mean, we have several stories in this journey so far. Yeah. So how about you introduce yourself?
Okay.
And then we'll jump into the mask.
Okay. So my name is, I was born Charles Luis Herñañdez to Leonardo Hernandez and Elva Hernandez, and but I grew up and I guess the nickname Chuck, came about at some point. Charlie, whatever, just different interchange, different people calling me different names, that sort of thing, different nicknames, whatever. And then and so we met at the TAGT conference, and I've been in education about 18 years, and I work specifically with STEM, the STEM programming and the gifted and talented students in my school district. And so I have a wife and two sons, and I've got a bunch of different projects that are all over the place, from music to video production and stuff like that are just born out of passion, projects, And so, I'm kind of definitely a mixture of a bunch of different activities, just a bunch of different, I guess, interests and passions and stuff like that. So I think sometimes it's kind of frustrating because there's not enough time, to devote to them. But I also want to thank you for asking me to come on, because I think when I met you, it was kind of an unintentional thing, from me just happening, to sit where you were at, and there's thousands of people, or however many people were in that auditorium, and what your message was, spoke to me. And I had literally just been talking to my boss about, this concept of removing our students from their element, and putting them into nature. And, that's something that I didn't really have a lot of experience with, because I'm not an outdoors person, but as I get older, I realize the importance of it. And then we wound up, speaking and becoming friends. But, it was interesting because I'm certain that you meet so many people, when you were traveling and that sort of thing. But because that spoke to me, and you happened to be right there, I had to, tell you. And, in talking, I think there was something, I don't know, there was something that compelled me to tell you about myself, whatever. And so, I think in establishing I guess a relationship with you, I've come to value a lot of the things that that you're working hard to do. And it's a goal of mine to to work more collaboratively with what you're doing, because I think it's great, and I think it's awesome, and I think that it's one of those things that is it's it's kind of instinctual. Like once you're exposed to it and you hear it, you realize, oh, this is a good thing, that you're doing. So
Yeah.
I definitely believe in what your goals are. And when we talked about having similar health goals, it was one of those things where I thought, well, maybe I had just started a weight loss support group, and I that kind of came out of just this concept of realizing that a lot of people, kind of felt that they needed or wanted a little bit of support.
Yeah.
And coming from a different place, than what I had experienced, with Weight Watchers and anything else, whatever. Yeah. But in pursuing our health, very, I guess with intention, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something that I think, there's been a lot of, I guess, common ground between us, and cheering each other on, because how much weight have you lost?
57 as of
50.
2 days ago.
Man, that's incredible, dude. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And what's awesome about it is you've already like made all these great changes that I feel like, man, I would hate to think that I have to go to the place that you've gone, which is to say, flour is the enemy and this and that. And because I'm fighting hard to I guess justify, rationalizing, keeping certain things in my life that maybe there's no place for it. I don't know.
Well, I think that you're jumping in deep right now. I'm excited. I mean, we're this is gonna make the math. But see, right now, I don't know if you're being modest, because I lost 57 pounds. But do you know, when I met you in December of 2019, do you know that the kickoff for me making a change was meeting you? Like I've always had ups and downs with my weight, and actually that's what I was going to write on this mask right here, and we're going to jump into that right now. It kicked off meeting you sharing, being willing to share what you had done. So just for the audience to know right now, clearly, to tell them how much you've lost since you began your journey.
Well, I can hang on a second, because here's the thing: is the activity that you shared with everybody.
Yeah.
The activity forces you to be honest with yourself, because the assurances of anonymity is what allows you to be safe, right? Even though you're in the midst of all these people, right? Yeah. Because I mean, if you're in class or something and somebody asks you to say that, you don't want to be. I mean, it's hard to be vulnerable. It's very hard. But if you're in a dark auditorium and you have, you don't have to put your name on it, whatever, and nobody's going to know that that's your card. And every single person in that auditorium whose card you pull is filled with burden and trauma and despair, in a room full of people who are supposed to be the leaders, in a room full of people who are supposed to be the ones that are the example. Yeah. That is something that is powerful, because it just tells you right there that, everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, you're carrying something. Yeah. You've got all this. So, the fact is I was already, you had already won me over, but you didn't know who I was, some jerk who's, eating his lunch there or whatever, hanging out. But I felt compelled to tell you, because when you were talking about, when you were sharing your story, I was like, man, we were just talking about this. We got to do it. This is it. And I wasn't even going to go, because I said, man, there's just, we're busy and I'm not going to go, whatever. And I said, now I know why I'm here.
Yeah. So, well, okay.
So you gave me more than you realized. So in that, I felt comfortable in doing that activity, and I still feel like people may have still even been reserved. I mean, how many people are truly that themselves? I mean, even this. I mean, whatever it is, it's hard. It's hard. But going back to your question, I've lost 262 pounds. At the highest that I've weighed was 525 pounds that I saw on a scale, but um, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing I could have been higher. I mean, it's very possible, but that's the highest I ever saw. And so it's not that I'm being modest. It's just that the fact is, you know, um, even in talking about all this and thinking about the things that we carry, right? The trauma and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Or burdens or, pressures, whatever. And there's all these things. It's like, even on our worst day, we're probably still blessed more than so many more people that we don't even realize. And so, there is something to it. There's some weight that it carries, and then, it's also in the same argument. It's you still have to. The sun's going to come out tomorrow. Whether or not you went through this, it doesn't give you license to behave like this now or whatever. So the health thing is all wrapped up in that, but I don't think because I'll tell you what, I'm still real fat, and I know it, but it's just because of perspective. That's all. When you're an addict, when you're a food addict, and or any type of addict, and you're in the middle of it, you don't have any ability to you don't have any ability to have any perspective. That's my take on it, because I mean, anybody could have told me, and some people probably did, is everything okay? When somebody is morbidly obese, there's something wrong, and there has to be something that changes. Otherwise, it's going to be it's not going to be any good. So I'll tell you this: what you did at that thing was you spoke to me, and I think that what you do spoke to me, I'm a believer, and I think that everything that you're doing is worthwhile. And so that's why I felt compelled to speak to you, and in talking with you, realizing that you've got that you might be you've got these pressures, you've got these things you're dealing with your weight, and I felt like, what, here's something where I can kind of connect with you and maybe help you in any way. And so I'm glad, I'm happy to be your friend, and I'm sorry that we don't get to talk more often, but I mean, you're busy, I'm busy, but this is cool. I mean, this is nice. I appreciate you inviting me on.
And I think that this is the opportunity, is that when you shared with me, like, your story, just a brief story. You just said you were talking about the conference and thanking me, and I was like, all right. And then you said, I've been on this journey, and you told me you lost. I mean, at that point, that was a year ago, so it wasn't this number, but it was definitely over 200 at the time. And I remember just saying, wait, go back. You kind of just said it like it was like you just kind of glossed over it, like it was like, oh, I was like, wait, slow down. And because I don't think you knew, or maybe you had an idea, but I don't know if you knew that I've been on a roller coaster.
No, I had no idea.
Right. And so,
but what I did know was that
your willingness to just say it and feel, and you opened up a channel in my head, in my heart. It was like, maybe I could learn something. And I think that the challenge is that most people who I've ever probably had conversations with in the past about weight loss are people who don't get it. They don't get it from this perspective of being a heavy person, overweight, like having food like call my name. Like they're just like, just put them down. Just don't eat it. Just don't touch it. Just don't buy it. And I'm like, yeah, if it was that easy, I would be looking like you. But it's not that easy. Like I try to walk around the aisle. I'm not going to go down the aisle. And I just walk by the aisle 3 times. And it's like, yeah, you want this. And I think that part of it, the reason I wanted to get into the mask right now, because I think we're already starting to talk about things, but I think it's better just let's get the mask done, because ultimately what we're already talking about is this mask, right? And I think the more that we help people who listen to this recognize that the masks we wear sometimes are just programs. It's programmed. And if we don't break past the program, I mean, I think the idea, I don't even know really all the ideas of the matrix, but this idea is the program is in me that, oh, this is how I feel about myself. Here's what I think. Here's what I believe. And it can't change until somebody comes in and says, hey, listen, look what I've done. And this other program over here. And you're like, wait, how'd you do that? And then you can be like, it's possible. It's possible. And I've actually met somebody. It's not somebody on TV. It's not somebody in a magazine. It's somebody who I actually am talking to, blood and flesh. I can see them and I want to learn. And I think oftentimes the bigger than life superstars who've done it, even when they try and teach you, it's hard for them to get to the words of like, here is the struggle, the call, the draw. And so I'm excited. I think we're already in this conversation. So let's do this because I know we got a hard stop time and I want to make sure that we get in here because, and thank you. First of all, this is exciting. We're already halfway into the podcast and we haven't even done the mask yet. So you already know that this is just the example of what can happen if you begin to build an experience with this tool. And we know that the tool is it's pretty simple, but it's not easy, right? It's one picture and 6 words. That sounds simple enough, but it's the picture and the words that comes into the depth of it and where you allow yourself to pour. And then today, especially since we're going to be sharing these, I really appreciate you for being here on the show today. And so anybody out there who wants to make a mask, you can go to 100kmasks.com. That's 100kmasks.com. And you can do it digitally, anonymously. But today, Chuck and I are going to share our masks. And so we're going to do it. You ready?
I am.
All right. So,
and before we do it, I just want to tell you something that you made me think of when you were talking. When you first said, "Oh, you haven't done this mask activity in a while," and I thought, "Well, I already done it," and in my head, because that's because of whatever it is that you think about. But the reality is I'm not the same person I was the last time I did it. And neither are you. And, this concept of, reflection, it's important. And I think that I'm glad that you're asking me to do it again. So that's good. I think it's a good thing.
All right. Well, so you have a piece of paper, just fold it in half or draw a line down the middle.
Okay.
So you can have a left side and a right side.
Yeah.
And, when we have our cards, the cards look like this. So it's the front of mask and back of mask, so the left side is the front and the right side is the back.
Okay.
And then the first step of this activity is to draw a mask. So whatever you think a mask looks like, masks have a very different, even when I was at the conference a year ago, masks had a very different connotation, right? So, because we're not talking about these masks of personal protection that we have everyone wearing. We're talking about masks of emotional disconnection.
Sure.
And so draw whatever you think a mask calls to you to draw in this space.
Well, I'll tell you what. For me, the mask is I think that the physical mask, the example on the spot is probably less consequential as the actual items that we're going to put on there. But I mean, of course it would be significant, but on the fly, I'm going to draw a generic mask, but I guess if I was thinking about it, I'm sure that whatever I'm going to write on here would probably be a reflection of that mask. So,
okay. Or
what it might be,
I knew right when you were kind of sharing your check-in, I was thinking, I think I already know a word that I'm going to write on the back. And I don't usually prepare these ahead of time, so I'm normally thinking of them in the moment, but I think I know right now what I'm going to do because it feels right. So once you have that mask drawn, you have those 3 words on the left, and the 3 words on the front of the mask are things that you gladly let people see. What are 3 qualities or characteristics of yourself that you gladly let people see? And then the back, those are 3 things that you normally don't talk about. You normally don't let people see. Um, hmm.
Okay, so
All right. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
it's up to you. You're the host. This is
Well,
your
the guests always decide, so we always let the
okay.
guests decide,
Okay. Uh, so
and we go front, and then back, and then back. So you decide, you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
okay. All right. So I'll do the front,
Okay.
but just one of them, right?
You, well, you can
Or
read
all of
whatever.
them, or all of them.
Ideally,
All of
read
them.
all of
Okay.
them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So all of them here. So and I did them in an order because the first one I would say is the glowing.
Okay.
You said, "Hey, you're glowing," and you know
Yeah.
what? I'll tell you what, man. It's been a nice day. I've done some yoga. I went on a 3-hour bike ride at 6:30 a.m. with some longtime friends. And so, and I fasted yesterday, so I ate, today, and that was nice. And so, despite whatever, I guess, stresses that might exist, I do feel happy. I'm definitely, the glowing that you were talking about. I spent some time in the sun. It was perfect. I did yoga twice today. I mean, just nothing, not like a, I did my own set of,
Yeah.
of exercises in the yoga mat, and I love it. And we have this neighborhood cat that comes and he like grabs us and so it's weird. He's like, and our dog kind of hangs out, whatever. But anyway, glowing, heck yes. So
Right.
I'll agree with you on that. So glowing is one of mine. The second one is humorous. When you said that, you that I kind of brushed over the fact that I had lost that weight, whatever, and other people have kind of told me like embracing the fat moniker, right, or the fat label, right, because people are kind of afraid of that. You know, it's kind of like someone saying, Mexican. So because and the truth is the way people say that word can be taken in an offensive way. But I'm Mexican American. That's who I am. There are certain things that can be taken certain ways, and so I guess coming back to my word, my second word is humorous. And I guess the reason I brought up that little story there is because through self-deprecation, right? Fat talk, that came out of just the concept of me and my fat friends talking about fat stuff, food and girls and whatever, right? And I mean, just whatever. And that's definitely on the front of my mask, being silly, being funny, and then the last one is not necessarily one that I involuntarily show or inadvertently show, but is one that I recognize I want to be a part of myself, and that is the word neutral. And for me, that's the word I thought about that is definitely different than the last time I did this activity, because neutral, just the concept of not getting too high or too low, you know, is what you practiced the other day when you posted that video, like it's all gone, and then you were talking about what you were really feeling, right? But here's the thing is that concept of neutrality, it's such a key thing. And there was this anyway, neutral, that's all. I don't want to talk your ear off about it.
Oh man. Well, you okay? Well, we let's jump in. So on the front, let me see. Let me see. So I wrote, "This is the mask I drew," and I wrote, "Funny, hardworking, and caring." And I think I was gonna write serious also. Like normally I write serious, but caring has been a new one that I've been trying to write more because for so many years, so many masks I've made, I never wrote caring. I remember wrote caring. And it wasn't until like a couple of weeks ago I interviewed a man. We had a conversation on the mask with a man, and he wrote caring, and I'm like, why have I never written caring? Like I think I'm caring. I think, and I'm dealing with that with with one of my young men who is going through it, and I keep trying to reach out, and I'm like finding the barriers, and I'm like, well, all I can do is be here. I'm just here for you when you're ready. Um, but funny is another one, right? I think about funny, like I think maybe I started being funny, and when you said it, I'm like, huh, that's when did I start trying to be funny? Was funny so that people wouldn't make fun of me. So as long as if I'm just funny, and then I don't have to worry about people making fun of me because I've always been the big kid. I've always been, uh,
The
I've
life
always
of the
been,
party.
I've always been husky, right? I've always been. That's what they. That's when you're little, when they call. That's what they call you in California. Oh,
Yeah,
you husky, right?
yeah,
I never liked the sound of that, but I was a big kid, and
sure.
so funny and hardworking. And I wrote caring because it's something that I truly truly believe, and I want to be able to like. I'm saying it more to say it out loud, to make sure that I'm holding that up in front. That is one of my qualities. When I wrote funny, serious, and hardworking, it almost I was it felt weird to like that the fact that I never used that word like, but I do describe myself as being very caring, and I try and show that. That's what I really want people to see. Um, and now the serious not on here, I'm like, well, serious kind of fits into hardworking because I'm really sometimes intense, right? Like I'm just like, go, oh no, okay, so. Well, okay, so anyway, the inside joke right now, folks. The reason I laughed, and if you can see Chuck, he's laughing. Like he makes fun of me because we were at a restaurant with some of my students, and when we went to San Antonio, we went to
Austin.
Austin for the South by Southwest that had got canceled. I took two of my young men, and he reminded me, hey, you remember how you talked to those young men at the restaurant? I'm like, no, what did I say? Like, because for
But
me,
that's
it's just like
because you
it's
you
just
you were lost in that. That to you was just your instinct. But the truth of the matter is that you were for that young. You acted for those young men in a way that every young man needs to have in their life at some point in time, that reins them in and holds them accountable and expects their best.
yeah,
And we laugh about it because it's one of those things that once you realize its significance, you can't undo that.
yeah,
You know, which is why you've been kicking butt. Which is why you're holding yourself to a different standard, which is why you've lost that weight. You're holding yourself. And the inside joke is the Junai look of death. Just that you totally and you know what? Oh, this is what I liken it to. You ever get you ever get told by your parent and wherever you happen to be, when they reel you in for whatever it is you did or said, it's just, and it's in front of other people, and those people see it. It's like, okay, they're not playing around, and neither were you with those young men. And when I saw it, it didn't matter that I was there. You didn't care. You still reeled them in and were on them, and it was great because you know what I
uh,
mean. If you don't do that, who's going to do that?
oh man,
But who's to do that for you? And
right,
you've started to do it for yourself.
right,
And that's the beautiful thing is no one's going to tell you to go to the bay and ride your bike around for an hour.
that's
But
right,
you're doing it, and you're
yeah,
changing your frequency, and you're finding your frequency, and and you're caring about yourself. You're
yeah.
really you're throwing it out there that this is my intentions, and it's powerful because you're carrying it out. It's beautiful. It's
Mm.
awesome.
Well, I
So you
appreciate.
are caring. You are self care, dude. That's
Well, I
important.
appreciate. Well, listen, when you brought that up to me again, because it was really because I was in this battle. I was in this personal battle between how bad do I really want to have this weight loss, and how bad do I really want to have my old ways. And you were like, you got to hold yourself like you hold those young men. And I was like, when that's actually what you mean, because until you pointed it out to me, I was like,
well, when's the last time you got reeled in? When's the last time that somebody that you respect said, hey, where they reel you in?
Yeah. Well, at that point, it rarely happens, right? It rarely happens because I got good masks and I'm a hard worker. And I don't talk to people about the weight issue. The weight issue I don't deal with usually. I can.
You're too busy with everything else. But when in reality, that's got to be number one, and we know it, and we kid ourselves if we don't.
That's right.
If we don't identify that, right? Then everything else. What's the deal? Because here's the fact: is there are people who wake up every day that have it 100 times harder than us,
right?
Just to get started, whatever.
Yeah. Ooh.
So what sucks is when you know that, it's like, well, I don't have an excuse now. And, that can't be unread. That can't be unexperienced,
Yeah.
So, but you're doing awesome. And when you did that, and I told you that, and you didn't know what the hell I was talking about, I thought it was funny because you were just being that kid's, reeling in that kid when he needed to be reeled in. So,
yeah. And just so people know what it was, like, I'll just give you a context. So people are like, what happened at the restaurant? Look,
sure.
It was an all you can eat sushi place. And it was $26 a person or something. And I told the young men, look, you can have the all you can eat, but you better make sure you eat $26 worth of food. Like I'll pay for it. But if you don't eat $26 worth of food, you're gonna owe me money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you better make sure that if you get the all you can eat special, which you're totally welcome to have, that you need to make it worth the money. And that's
well, I gotta say, I thought a part of it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, a part of it was, I mean, I this is the honest truth. I saw you deal with the world crashing down. You had all these plans, man, and it's just, you went to all this trouble. You had all these things, all these panels and all this stuff. And I, quite honestly, I didn't think that we would even get to connect, and we may not have if things hadn't fallen apart, but they did, and that made you realize, how am I going to make something out of this situation? So you had that young man working on a documentary, and he didn't like, you were trying to communicate something to him. He didn't understand it, and you were not going to settle for, let's figure it out later. You were not going to settle for anything less than his best. You put him on the spot. You asked him to problem solve on the fly, to figure it out, to fit, to make something out of nothing. And so that was the Junai look of death. In addition to, I mean, I'm almost certain because he was like, well, what do I film? Or he didn't, and you were like, well, I mean, you started to kind of give him, help him, give him some help. And
yeah,
but it was tough, man, because that kid also didn't know, I mean, he was dealing with the same fallout, and now you're asking him to make a documentary. So, I mean,
that's right.
That's hard. Right. You threw it on him. And in addition to the $26 sushi.
Well, I'm glad you remind me that you came for the second conversation. The first conversation, I guess, before you got there was that, and then you came and we were.
Yeah, don't waste my money. Yeah, exactly. I get it.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Well, we're almost there because we're at time because we got to get you out of here. But
we're good.
Okay, so now we're on the back. This is the part that sometimes can get a little more challenging. So it's on you.
Okay. So the first one. And what I did here was I was thinking of it in terms of a dichotomy here with the front. So there is some relationship to the first one with the first. So the first one on the front for me was glowing, but the first one on the back for me is pain. And that pain is whatever emotional burden, whatever emotional trauma, whatever depression, whatever things that I happen to carry that anyone is going to have, right? I mean, everybody carries something, whatever that happens to be for me. That's what it is, that pain. Yeah. But I understand that everybody has pain. So, you work through it, you figure it out, and hopefully, you learn from it, right? But it's hard, very hard to deal with pain. My second one, to couple with the humorous side, would be the physical pain, right? The fact is, I've got a bunch of nagging injuries that I just ignore, and I've ignored for a long time. And I realize that at some point I'm gonna have to deal with them, and whether I do it on my own or because I'm forced to do it. And I hope that I get to where I want to be physically and health wise before I have to deal with that stuff. So that's pain, right? And that's kind of the underside of always kind of laughing things off or just kind of going with it. I got a lot of pain. Just I my body's been through the ringer. And then to couple the on the back with the neutral again is neutrality. Which there is something to it. There's something to balance. There's something to the yoga I've started to do. There's something to balancing. Trying to navigate what we're going through right now, collectively, personally, as a family, as a father, as a husband, as an educator, as a bandmate, as a producer, whatever, trying to stay on the level, right? That is definitely, something that I know that, I may not always show. As much as I want to show it,
Holy.
What about you?
Man, thank you for that, man. Yeah, this is one that I've so on the back I wrote food addiction,
Okay.
sadness, and fear of failure. And I started with the food addiction this time because I think what I'm glad to be in this call with you about is I think when I got back from India, 2007, my mom had started going to these classes about food addicts for Anonymous. And I was like, what the heck? She's like, yeah, I think she was like, I think I'm a food addict. Flour and sugar are my triggers. I'm like, what are these words you're talking about? And I think I was in India still while she was saying this. And I came back and, she was going to these meetings. She said, you should come to a meeting with me one day. I'm like, man, I gotta go to those meetings, right? And I remember one Saturday, I just happened to decide to go. And what I saw happen with that person at the front of the room who was sharing their story was a story of transformation. And I was inspired. And I was like, is that real? I was like asking myself, can you really have an addiction to flour and sugar?
How old were you? How old were you at the time?
Oh, man. So 2007. So that's 14 years ago. 13 years. I think 13 years ago. So I'm 46. So I was 20. Wait, no. Am I doing the math right? 13. I was 33.
Okay.
33. 13. Yeah. 13, 33, something like that. Like it was and 30s were really weird for me. But what I realized was that when I first started trying to give it up, the reason I talk about it is because it was almost like something had taken over my brain. Like the first day I said I'm gonna give up flour and sugar. I remember like going to one meeting and I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to another meeting. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it on my own. I'm not gonna have no coach. I'm not gonna have no sponsor. None of that nonsense. I don't need anybody asking me questions. I'm gonna just do it on my own. So I make a decision. Today I'm gonna do it. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. And so anyway, the long story short is that I was at a repast for one of my colleagues whose partner his wife had passed away, and they were it's a bunch of food. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm not having anything because it was a lot of cakes and cookies and stuff that doesn't work for me.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm not having any of it. And literally, because I've never had an addiction to drugs or alcohol, I wouldn't know what somebody told me that they couldn't stop what it meant. And I remember sitting there the first day I decided not to have any flour or sugar, and literally the plate of round discs of sugar and flour with chocolate chips in them was calling me like I literally it was almost one of them things where I'm trying to be attentive to his stories he's telling at this table while people are sitting around the table, and all I could think about is really wanting to grab one of those cookies. And I'm like, this is silly, Ashanti. What's wrong with you? Stop thinking about the stupid cookies. Like, pay attention. And I'm like back, and I can smell them. So anyway, I'm saying that out loud because I don't talk about this story much. I think I may have mentioned it when I was on your podcast a while back, but I don't talk about it much, and I rarely ever write it on the card. So, but I think I've come to an understanding over these last several months, connecting with you and learning from you, is that I had a food addiction. Food was where I went to for comfort. Food made me feel relaxed and calm and safe. And so I ran to it whenever I needed to. It wasn't like I was having to steal from somebody to go buy stuff. I just went and bought it. And I ate it and I enjoyed it and I felt good. And then later I'll be like, you probably shouldn't eat all those. And then it was an over and over and over a cycle. And so that is one that, and I think the sadness, most of the time is the sadness about other things, but it's sad that had been a trap for me. But now I have a different relationship with food. I think, over our conversations, I've been so I have fear of like failing. Like, I'm down 57. Like, I don't want it to go away. Like, the other day I called you and I was like, dude, I'm in the store. I'm really wanting to, like, oh my God, why is this? And I don't even know why I made the phone call. That's not something I would normally do.
Well, but it's because that I'm as sick as you over it. The reality is we're coming from a place of dysfunction. We're coming from a place that is just, and it's so easy. It's so easy because this particular addiction is so accessible.
Yep.
And it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so easy, and it doesn't have to be the worst thing. It could be the crappiest food, for me at least.
Yeah.
I have the palate of a garbage disposal, so it doesn't matter, and that's hard.
And it's on sale all the time. It's always on sale. It's always a special.
Yeah. Oh, and this is 50% off. I'll take it. Let me have 6 of them. Yeah, exactly. Day old sweetbread. I'll take it all.
Oh man,
it's hard, dude. It's bad.
It is. And I thank you for being in this journey with me. I think I've learned so much from you. I think having you ask the really important questions around, well, if you decide to do it and enjoy it. I think that was the conversation earlier the other day. Like, hey, if you're gonna go do it and enjoy it.
And
but
learn something from it.
Absolutely. But don't do it and then be like bitter about it and mad.
Exactly.
Like, if you're gonna enjoy it, go. And I was like, I'm not really ready to enjoy it like that. I think I'm just looking for a quick cover up,
Man.
And which is when I talk to my young people in our program who are fighting addictions to drugs, fighting addictions to alcohol, fighting addictions to sex, fighting addictions to porn, fighting addictions to relation. Like, when I see them fighting addictions like that, when I tell them, when I tell them I get it.
Yeah.
And so that is one that I don't normally talk about, and so I'm glad that I got to be on this call today with you and share that one out loud, because this is the first time I've ever written this in 24 episodes, and so thank you.
Well, absolutely, dude, and it's one of those things. 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese. We're not the only people that carry this. It is what it is. But you talk about it and you work through it, and I'm working on it, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to support you, and I'm happy to think of the days ahead where we'll continue to collaborate even more, and I appreciate the platform.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you. Is there anything else you want to say before we close? I want to let you. Well, how about you just let people know how they can follow you, how they can get in touch with you, and then what things are coming up for you? I know there's some really exciting things coming up for you.
Okay, so quite honestly, the last podcast I did for my Fat Talk podcast with you was probably the last one that I released, and I think a part of it was just a kind of an evolution, I guess, in terms of how I was using my time and this and that. And it's not to say that I didn't want to continue it, but the pandemic kind of created some obstacles. But I've got about 20 episodes of a Fat Talk podcast that I had released at a certain part of my journey. But these days, I'm kind of just posting to social media, to Instagram and to Facebook under the Fat Talk handle at fat.talk. And the thing is even though that's really the principal way in which I'm sharing my pursuit of health, I am working on a full-length documentary about my journey, and that documentary is called American Fatso: The Last 100, and that title also embraces, a stigmatized word, like fat talk, it is, but in the process of making this, it's something that is therapeutic, because, I'm having to look at what that process was, instead of just blindly, fighting to get to where I'm at now, which, I still feel like I've got mountains to climb. So if I dismiss what I've been through, it's only because my eyes are, there's a new book called Green Light by Matthew McConaughey. And he talks about how a sniper is never aiming for the target, he's aiming, beyond it. And for a while I had this little hurdle of getting to a particular, milestone marker, and getting wrapped up in numbers and stuff like that. But that's kind of where I'm at now, which is breaking through some obstacles, and some numbers and some milestones that I've had a hard time breaking through, because I've never been beyond them. And so there is a fear of failure, but the fact is this project, this documentary, is a reflection on what it is to lose, by the time I finish it, 300 pounds. And so being from the perspective of being a typical American Slav, completely, living a dysfunctional life, living just a very difficult, existence, and turning it around, and realizing that there's a lot to live for, and all these obstacles, basically have created opportunity. And so every day now for me is something that I thank the universe for, and I move the needle as much as I can every day, incremental progress. And I try and stay on the level, but it's hard, because when you have 300 pounds to lose, it's kind of a hard thing to endure and keep up with. So I have had some ups and downs, but that documentary I aim to release at the end of the summer. So that's my goal.
All right. Well, I know I saw the trailer on your Instagram, and so we'll put a link to it in the show notes so people can go and watch it.
Awesome.
And
Cool.
Look forward to hearing about when the releases are, so we can share that for you. And it's a part of my journey too. So you've inspired me, and I have 75 more to go that I'm working on. And so thank you for being in this journey. Thank you for supporting the people who are who you're supporting. And I have no doubt that you're going to inspire hundreds and thousands of people who also want to understand how to have a better relationship with food. So thank you.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you what the effect will be, but I can tell you this. My two most important followers are my sons. And I know that if I do what I'm supposed to do, if I continue to answer the bell, if I continue to wake up earlier, if I can continue to make time, continue to be mindful, then I will hopefully influence them, and that will be something that will have a bigger impact, I hope. Anything beyond that is, it's gravy. So obviously, I want to see you get to your goals too. I think it's going to be a glorious day, when you can look back and say, you know what, this is what I had set out to do with my health, and I did it. because I've never done that. And so it's scary. It's but throwing it out there into the world is certainly something that I believe, is empowering.
It is.
So,
well, thank you.
Because I'll tell you what,
yeah,
I don't like seeing pictures of myself, I don't like seeing, I am a physical abomination, quite honestly. And the fact is I've worn many masks, and I'm taking these masks off, and I'm going for it, and that's my goal.
Well, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it together. You're doing it on yours. I'm doing it on mine. But we get to learn in the middle. Well, listen. Let's thank you. If anybody out there wants to be a part of this and wants to make a mask, you can go to www.100kmasks.com, masksplural.com, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Chuck, thank you and congratulations on what's about to come and what's coming. We really appreciate you.
And congratulations to you, dude. You have made this, this important move in the right direction, and that's inspiring. And when you've shared it, I see, you're inspiring people too, man. It's great. And I love it. It's awesome. And I'm glad that we're kind of feeding off each other in terms of, because you're a very successful guy. You've got your thing going, you've got all these things, but you're taking care of your health, and that's going to be huge for all the rest of your projects.
If what you heard today you enjoyed, if you've listened to this and you found something inspiring, please like and subscribe to this podcast. That's the best way for someone to find this podcast, maybe like you did. Please tell someone about it. If listen to some of our previous episodes, and if one of them rings out to you, please share it with somebody you know. We also invite people to join us in a face-to-face where they come together with another person to make a mask and talk about that mask together. There's short conversations, about 20, 30 minutes. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please send us a message, send us in the comments below, let us know that you're interested in that. And we look forward to you joining the movement of the Million Mask Movement. And check out our new shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but this is our new shirt, the Million Mask Movement. And so we'll have these soon available, but we look forward to you being a part of the movement and supporting our work. Please consider supporting the work that we do in Ever Forward and in the work that we do in the Million Mask Movement to let people around the world realize that they're not alone. Thank you.